Hey everybody, Mike Pfeiffer with Pfeiffer Hobby Supply. Somewhere about 10 months ago or so, I showed you guys an Acme Diecast 1/18th kit that I had purchased on eBay, and it's a Fiat Topolino Dragster. It's actually an altered. I mistakenly called it a gasser there, but it's an altered, an old altered. And I told you 10 months ago that I was going to build this thing, and I had broken it all out, showed you the pieces and everything. Well, I finally have it completed, so this will be the Fiat Dragster Part 2. Let's take a look at it. Okay, gang, this is how it turned out. I will let you take a look at it here as I turn it around, maybe, if I can accomplish that. And we'll take a gander at some of the things that you're seeing here closer. Despite the problems that there were no instructions in the box and that the box contained parts for several different Fiats, not just this particular engine combination, and other dragsters, by the way, it took me a long time to even decipher how to put it together. Let me get into that. Okay, as I said, there were no instructions. So all of the piping, all the wiring, all the parts, even though they were numbered, all of everything, I had to figure out from downloading 20 or 30 pictures of this particular 427 Chevy engine to get the right components, to figure out where the components went on the engine and how the wiring and the tubing and gas lines and everything go. It was quite a feat. Some of the things on the car are very obvious and easy. Putting the chassis together was relatively easy. Figuring out what seat fit in here. There was 3 seats in the kit. This is the only one that fits. There were not enough etched parts to finish the seat belts properly. So one looking in here may notice that there is incorrect parts on the seat belts. It doesn't bother me any, but that was something that was wrong. Another thing that was wrong is there were 2 sets of exhaust pipes in the box. This particular set was for a Hemi engine, and there was another set in there. They were also for a Hemi engine, so I had to do a lot of bending and modifying. These are die-cast metal, and I had to do a lot of splitting and cutting. There was just a lot of modifications to get these pipes to fit. The other ones didn't fit at all. But anyway, all the sobbing and whining and crying, I guess I just had to get back to it. Next, real quick, before we go into really getting close and showing the detail on this thing, let me talk about the paint job. Okay, as far as the paint job goes, I had a lot of, there wasn't a lot of cleanup on the body. The body was all pre-primed and everything, although I did put Tamiya spray can primer on it, filler. Another thing I did is I wanted to get these holes cut in where the grill area is. I just thought it looked kind of retro to have these holes punched in there. So I did that. Other than that, there are absolutely no modifications to the body whatsoever. I don't know the actual name of this color, and I'm not exactly sure how it's going to come out on the video. But it's somewhere, I mean, in this light right here, it looks orange. But when you look at it in daylight, it looks like a peach orange color. I don't know, it's a real interesting color. I sprayed the body with Tamiya primer, like I said. Then I used a white undercoat, and then I used the orange on top of that. Then on top of that is 3 coats of clear. Then it was polished with a polishing compound. Then it was waxed. And I really think that the finish on it came out nice. I wasn't into putting any decals or anything on it. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to spoil the look of the body and everything with decals. But let me stick the hood on here real fast, and we'll spin it around to the side and give you a little idea what the paint job looks like, I think. You can see that it's real nice and shiny. In fact, if I get down here, you can see me actually taking the picture in the side of it. It's a real pretty color. I like it a lot. And really so much for the paint job. I painted the wheels with the same primer and just left them that way. These wheels I ordered online. Got these wheels already painted with a different set of slicks that had Goodyear lettering on them. However, those tires are too big to fit within the boundaries of the wheel well here. So I had to take these tires off those rims and put them on these rims. What else can I tell you? We're going to talk about the small detail modifications that I made to it. But every piece on it, with the exception of the exhaust pipes, the pieces fit exactly like they were supposed to fit, which is a good sign of a good model. It's just that the lack of instructions just drove me crazy and kept me hanging on for quite some time. But let's take a close look at the engine, then I'll show you some of the other things that I did to dress it up some. Okay, here's a close shot of some of the engine detail. Another thing that happened during construction is you can see an upright right down in there from the frame. That is an engine mount. One of them broke when I was taking the engine in and out, test fitting everything. So that is a piece of aluminum rod that is super glued to the frame and then super glued into the block and then painted to match the frame. That was the only difficulty I really had. All the wiring, all the hoses and the drive belt and everything that you see here were in the kit. Everything is assembled just as the kit came. The only thing that I changed is the spark plug wires. It had black wire, real stiff black vinyl coated wire, and I didn't like it, so I changed it to this this yellow stranded wire here. And all it required me to do was just drill out the holes in the distributor top. On the engine, that is about the only modification I made. There was about a 4 or 5 step process to painting that hood scoop. I also found out that the vinyl that all these hoses are made out of really doesn't like mineral spirits. I almost melted the ones going to the injectors at the top by putting the mineral spirits on it. They got real tacky and sticky and started to kind of melt. I had to go back in and put flat black acrylic paint on top of that vinyl to stabilize it back to where it was. So on the rest of this, the silver or the steel color that's actually on the tubing there and the red and the blue fitting colors are all acrylic. The caps, the center caps on these wheels that appear to be chrome are actually Molotow pens, which I also used where you had to heat the tops of the pins to retain the steering arm and the drag link and everything. That was a no-brainer. These wheels slip right onto a metal axle, which was no big deal. Let's take a look, see if we can take a look down inside. I chose to paint the steering wheel a wood color and leave everything else the silver that I painted the frame. The brake handle, of course, tip was painted red, which I thought it should be. And that lever that you see sticking up there, I can only guess. I really don't know what it is. It has a clutch, and it doesn't appear to have a transmission. So I don't know in real life what that is supposed to be. But it's there. just because that was part of the kit. Okay. There was like 3 or 4 parachutes plus some material to actually cover this parachute with some type of fabric, but I thought the fabric really looked hokey when I tried to lay it up there. So I went ahead and painted the chute with grimy black. I had some string of an appropriate size, some nylon string. So I took that string, did 4 strands of it, looped it back, looped it through the push bar section here, and tied a knot in it. So it's looped through itself here. In other words, they would have looped the parachute through the loop here. Then there's a knot in the ropes to keep them from getting tangled. Then it goes up, and of course those are all wadded up inside the parachute. Now the real detail here in the last few hours was making that cotter pin that you see right there out of a piece of brass rod. Then taking this piece of wire, coated wire, stripping it off and attaching that to the pin. It goes down and is tied with some product called Easy Line, which is a product we use in model railroading for doing telephone lines and power lines. Strapped it to the frame there, and of course bent the handle into shape and then soldered the handle together to make up the chute and chute release. So that's what it took to get the parachute to look like that. Aside from that detail and the plug wires, there's not much else that I actually had to do detail-wise on it. Like I say, everything fit together well. The only other pain in the neck was trying to get the seat belts into some configuration that made sense, or at least sort of made sense with the limited amount of pieces I had. Like I say, I was missing a couple of photo etch pieces, or I didn't assemble them correctly. Either way, it's just going to have to do. For me, when I look at the car, I like the car. So that's all that's important. And that's really, I guess, all I can tell you about it. And the hood, of course, as you have seen, just sits on. There is a tab there right up here that holds it on, and it just rests on the fuel tank. So that's pretty much it on the Fiat Dragster. And I guess for today, I'll let you go. But I just wanted you all to know that I did finish it.